So I got 4 identical Tattoo 650 milliamp hour 75C rated battery packs that I just finished charging on my fancy new toolkit charger, and I have it set on measuring the resistance level of each cell. So you can see the pack number 1, we're pretty consistent around 24 to 28 milliohms. Similar on pack 2. 3 has got a little bit of an outlier there at 35, and pack 4 varies from 14 to 24. So let's talk about that a little bit. Alright, I put a little spreadsheet together. As I showed, I had 4 of these 3S650 75C packs that I had on charge. The first 2 were the starting, I started them at their storage charge level, and the next 2 I had just got done flying, which had recovered. The voltage was at 3.8 or so. So I flew them down to about 350 or 3.5 and let them come back. Then I was monitoring what the milliohm reading was from that tester from the start, and you can see right away there's quite a difference between whether you start them when they've been cold and just kind of sitting around at room temperature versus if they have been heated up, just getting off of a flight. And then as time went on, so as the charge was going on, which took about maybe 30 minutes, the resistance level was going down on these cold packs, and then kind of settled out in the mid to low 20s for the end reading for that milliohm level. The hot packs, which actually start off hot, you could see as they were getting up to room temperature, their resistance level measurement was climbing as well. This third pack got into about the same range. It had one cell that was reading, up in the 35 range, which is quite a bit off of the average. And then this last pack here, for some reason, it had one cell that was down in the 14 range and one cell that was up to 24, and I think the other one was somewhere in between. So why does this matter? Let's go to the next part of the spreadsheet. Okay, so what I show in this part of the spreadsheet is I have some 3S packs. This one in the bold, here's the one I just tested that I've been talking about. And in this, what I have listed is in these cells here what the milliamp hour rating is on the pack itself and what the C on the label is. Now what this C is supposed to mean is you take that value, multiply it by the amp rating, so it would be it would be 45 times 0.85 to give you the maximum sustained amperage that you should be able to expect out of this pack. So in that example, it would be 38.3 amps. In this pack, it would be 63.8. In this pack, it'd be 39. This one, 48.8. So these are some pretty stout numbers for current. But what you have to have in order to get these type of amps out is the milliamp. None of the cells can have a milliohm rating measurement any higher than these numbers. So clearly there's a mismatch here. So what you can do is, using the same calculation, you can calculate out, if using what you're reading, let's say you take the maximum milliohm number that you got from your test, plug it into the same spreadsheet, and it calculates what the real C value is that you're actually getting from that particular pack. So even though it might be 45 in that example, it's really operating at 17.9 and saying that the maximum continuous current out then would be 15.2 and on down the line. So just to show that it works out right, if I put in the milliohm rating here, which I says 3.6 is what you would like, if that's what I actually measured, yes, it comes out to the maximum amp out equals about what's expected if you were able to achieve that. So the point is, you go in and you do your measurement and you pick a value off of there, and that tells you most likely what you're going to get for sustained current out in any particular pack. So obviously a high number is going to impact the maximum amps that you're going to get out of that pack. So why is that important? Well, what I did here is I just did a flight, and I'll show you some footage of that in a second. Collecting every second using the readout on my recorder in the headset what the voltage where each cell is, or the average cell, probably just a 3-cell pack, so it'd be the average of those 3, what the milliamp hours is telling me that's been used to date, and then what the amp is. And basically this is what you'd expect as the flight continued on here. This was like a little over 3 minutes. The cell voltage is going to go down. You're going to be using up your capacity, your milliamp hour capacity, and the amps, since the voltage is dropping, you're going to possibly see a slight increase in your amperage because you're trying to maintain a hover. So I'm just flying around the basement here, not doing anything crazy, just trying to maintain level flight. And you'll get, I'll bring this spreadsheet over here a little bit. So this is what it came out. These are the amps. So it was averaging around 8 amps for the whole 200 seconds. And this was the voltage per cell that was dropping over time, which is what you'd expect. So if you're getting numbers, down in that 8 amp range in my example, based on the milliohm measurements that I'm getting on my tester, it tells me that I'm going to get pretty sagging performance and most likely a shorter flight if I'm operating at close to whatever this is coming out to be. Clearly you want to be able to have a low milliohm level, but let's say for instance that on this ones that I've been testing here, these tattoos, let's say that I had a nice new fresh pack and I was finding the average was 10. So it was telling me that I should be able to get up to a continuous 20 amps output, which means I could be punching it pretty hard and it should have no problem with it. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. I don't know if we should trust what's on the label, and in my case with cinewhoops, I'm not so sure that whether it's 45 or 60 or 75 or 100, if it's going to make that much difference if I'm, as long as I'm well above what what it's coming out for my max calculated after doing some measurements here. Anyway, thought I'd share that little insight there. The other thing that I also calculated when I did this, and it's just kind of a thing of interest, to hold up, this is a 2-inch cinewhoop with a 3S pack, and you can just basically multiply the volts of the pack times the current drawn, and it tells you how many watts. So it looks like I was using essentially about an 80 to 90 watts power dissipation for this whole flight to basically maintain, a hover altitude. And so it's kind of interesting how many watts you're using up when you're flying your quad. So there you go. That's all I had today. Have a good day.